part of me wonders what we missed during the process of dubbing. What crucial context are we missing from an actor's performance? What subtle nuance goes sadly unnoticed? Well, in the case of The Dark Myth, I can rightfully say that we're not missing anything. Written and directed by Takashi Yano, director of Maisa ni Koku, and Blood Rain Curse of the Yoma, The Dark Myth seems to be one of those kinds of anime that is so steep in Japanese mythology that it's a wonder that it ever got a US release. But again, this is Manga Entertainment we're dealing with here. The same company that bent over backwards trying to repeat the same success they had overseas with Akira and Ghost in the Shell. And they tried to repeat it by publishing blithering crap like this. And you wonder why Funimation and Viz are the only games in town. Created in 1990 and brought stateside in 1997, The Dark Myth is unequal parts a Shinto 101 lecture and Peter Jackson's Dead Alive. Sadly, guess which part overwhelms the other. Still, there is the occasional bit of gory fun to be had here, but they're little nuggets of visceral entertainment drowning in a lake of dull, dreary, listless exposition. Yep, it's another turd polisher of a review. This is The Dark Myth. We begin with a strangely accurate retelling of the Susanna Woe myth, which basically boils down to a god getting jealous of his sister, so he burns her home to the ground and throws a flayed horse into her looming room. Because of said behavior, he was cast out of heaven, releasing 10,000 evils into the world, and he slays an 8-headed dragon. Now keep in mind, I just told you everything you need to know in about 20 seconds. The anime, meanwhile, thinks it takes an hour and a half. And we soon get an earful as we join our dopey-eyed hero marveling at some artifacts when he's approached by a walking exposition golem.
You see this piece of pottery? Notice the snake motif of the handle. It's typical of the period. During the Jomon era in the Suwa Valley where the Tokarishi ruins are, it seems there was once a very large community. We now know that these people worshipped a serpent god.
Take that 20-second clip I just showed you and stretch it out to about an hour, and you got the basic gist of the anime. If you decide to click off this video, I wouldn't blame you. Take me with you! Well, that was a scene, by the technical definition, and it seems that the anime wants to make this a habit by having scenes start and end with no sense of connective tissue between them. Droopy Dog here goes back home, mentions being confronted by Old Man Exposition, and then he's confronted by a rando and they go to a diner together.
Takashi, that is your name, isn't it?
Yes?
My name is Koizumi. Years ago, I used to be a great friend of your father's.
I've been in car wrecks less jarring than these edits, and the hell of it is that for a story that seems to want to cut to the chase, it's actually taking its sweet-ass time trying to get to anything. Alright, setting aside the glaring fact that Droopy is trusting this man he's never met just because he said he was his father's friend in only 2 minutes of screen time, the storytelling is downright schizophrenic. I mean, it immediately cuts to Droopy looking through his dead father's belongings to look for clues to his murder, cut to him driving with the rando into the woods because apparently his father was killed because he found an ancient treasure. But to get to these plot points, we have to sit through this bullshit.
So who is this Saburo Koga?
Well, according to the old books, author Kuran Morai, there's a mythology that's older than the Shinto writings. The myth states that this character, Saburo Koga, the ruler of Uomi, discovered a huge haul of treasure hidden underground.
Look, I know this all sounds like necessary information, but by the merciful end of this, you'll realize just how pointless this all is. Wait a minute. A kid trying to find an ancient treasure that his father was killed for in the rural countryside, guided by a mustachioed gentleman? This is the plot to The Final Sacrifice.
I'm Rousdower. Zap Rousdower.
Well, my name is Bill Stinkwater.
But if you think for one moment that I'd be willing to anoint anyone here the blessed title of Rousdower, I'd sooner drown myself in ammonia. Seems that Droopy and Rando run into Old Man Exposition in the mountains, and he leads them into a secret cave.
It seems probable there were people living in this cave even before that time. Look, here's pottery from the Jomon period.
And?
But as to what happened here, from the way the bodies are lying, I would guess some sort of massacre probably took place here.
Oh, who cares how old the cave is? And for God's sake, can this kid have one expression that isn't, "My mom's yelling at me because I spoiled my dinner"? Please? Oh.
The cave goes on further in. It's the treasure.
Even when he's spooked by a skelly, he still only sells it for half a heartbeat before reverting back to... Aww. Elijah Wood even managed to break out of his dopey expression every once in a while in Lord of the Rings. And what was that pointless jump scare guarding? An armless monster. And the three just run out of the den, never to come back again, with Old Man Exposition grabbing the Kurlanaskus for their troubles. He'd probably treat it better than Picard would.
Is this it?
Meanwhile, a group of people are also making a beeline towards Droopy. Seems they're all descendants of the first tribe of people in Japan, which is important for some reason.
Master Kikuchiku, we've just passed through the Kanmon Tunnel.
Good. We need to get to Izumo as soon as possible. I feel sure Takashi will be making his way there as well. Orion's Belt. It's so beautiful at this time of year.
Can something happen in this anime already?
What the hell was that?
Okay... Okay. So, to recap, during one of Old Man Exposition's patented lectures, the car suddenly goes into ludicrous speed, a being called Brahma appears, takes Droopy out of the car, and just wrecks the rest of them, leaving Droopy looking like he just shat a cinder block. The fuck? Oh, and what of the rando and Old Man Exposition, I hear you ask?
Look, the old guy's still breathing.
The driver's had it. Look, half his head's missing.
Ah, come on! One, how in the world could you tell that that old man was still breathing? And two, how in the world did the rando go from the driver's seat to the passenger seat in the crash? Fuck this! But you know what? At least something happened. Something of consequence actually occurred. But then we dump into some more mindfuckery.
This is the symbol of our covenant. You will become Atman.
What the hell is that?
I think we found the final question of this anime. To be perfectly frank, from here on out, the anime goes on a kind of scavenger hunt as a plot. Droopy keeps getting new scars all over his body, he gets a bitching sword and necklace, all under the guise of becoming the Atman, or the Special, if you will. The story is nothing but a rail shooter, stopping only so that Droopy can get another scar or a tchotchke to complete his set. So basically, you just watch the entire anime. But I know what you're all thinking. It's only been 20 minutes. Surely there has to be more to this anime than lengthy diatribes about Japanese Shinto folklore that won't matter in the slightest. Wanna bet?
There's a stone effigy of the heavily dappled cult which has been handed down with generation giant snake. It's a representation which sounds a lot more electric bound giant snake with Gamasano flame destroyed and in 18 in the 3rd century. The snake is thought to be a metaphor for an 5th century after that. However, some in an endless propagation which were introduced.
So if it's all the same to you guys, I think I'm just gonna skip around and talk about the 3, maybe 4 remaining plot points that actually matter in this heap. Droopy winds up in the hands of the leader of the tribe because apparently his character is supposed to be passed around from person to person like a collection plate. And at no point does he seem slightly miffed or shows even the slightest incredulity over these people that seem to know everything about him. Old Man Exposition, Rando, and now Ascot here.
Where are we going?
There's something I want you to see.
Well, I really ought to be getting home. You see, my mother will be getting worried about me.
You needn't worry about that. I've already contacted her. It's okay for you to stay with us.
So does my mother know who you are then?
She's known me for a long time. I'm surprised she hasn't mentioned me. Anyway, I'll tell you about all that later.
Good God, how has he been able to avoid abduction up until now? Fucking Butters from South Park is less naive than this kid. Ascot shows him some ancient paintings, because they're hella cool I suppose, and he becomes immediately enthralled, being led by the nose to some undisclosed location where, again, he gets another mark for his troubles. Meanwhile, Ascot, completely independent of what Droopy is doing, comes across an ancient tomb where he finds a golden seal and the vague promise of eternal life. I think the creators knew that they were making a boring, senseless turd, so they decided to put in some boobs by having a woman just tag along and skinny dip in the Lazarus pit. Needless to say, she chose poorly. Ah, gross! Look, she turned into a ghoulie if it had sex with the crypt keeper.
Shh! Go away. Go someplace where you belong. You saw that? Don't involve yourself further. Goodbye now.
I swear to God, this guy is my spirit animal for this review. I mean, sure, Old Man Exposition is the source of a lot of what makes this anime nigh unbearable to sit through, hence his nickname, but at the same time, he can also have this down-and-out, do-not-give-a-shit attitude that I find wholly endearing. It just seems that no matter what is going on, shit just does not faze him in the slightest. Like here, when he joins back up with Droopy and he leads him to get a magic mirror from a princess who hatches from an egg. You heard me! Princess who hatches from an egg.
In the Journal of Miracles, there's a story about a woman who was born from an egg. It's known as the Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, or the Moonlight Princess.
With all due respect, what the fuck?
I've got nothing for you, Malkovich. Nor can I explain to you why the princess suddenly dissolves into a pile of goo while trying to give Droopy a mirror for his journey. You know, General Patton said I'd know what I'd do if I reached into a pile of goo that used to be my best friend's face, but that was best friends and not a princess. What now, George? Speaking of blood and guts, the anime has proven to be strangely bloodless for the most part. Oh yeah, there are occasional dismemberments and disembowelments, but there are entire oceans between these little islands of carnage. You know what it is? It's like we're a mouse being compelled to run through a drab maze just so we can get a little hunk of cheese at the end of it. Except here, the hunk of cheese is a hunk of some dude's chest that's been blown open like a Gallagher watermelon. That's some good cheese. Too bad that's about it. I mean it. That's pretty much all there is to the anime. Ascot winds up betraying Droopy because he wanted to be the special and killed Droopy's father to do it, but left Droopy alive because... And Ascot led Droopy on this expedition earlier because... fuck it, just kill him off unceremoniously before the audience regains some of their brain functions.
I can see. I see you've gathered all the holy marks and imperial treasures. Rightfully, I'm the one who should have become the Atman.
You know, Kenji Kawai, the composer for the Ghost in the Shell movies, also worked here on The Dark Myth. So, you know, it's got that going for it. With his sudden enemy killed and all his treasures regained, Droopy receives the prize and Old Man Exposition fucks off into his egg. Like, really, he does.
Are you really going, Master Takeuchi?
Yes, there is nothing left for me to do in this age. I will never see you again, nor Takaru Yamato either.
Will the Dark Nebula come back to the Earth?
No, I don't think so. You remember, once the vision of the Dark Nebula had gone, the image of Maitreya Bodhisattva continued glowing on the mandala for a while.
Even when he fucks off to his home planet, he still manages to squeeze in one last bit of exposition. It's like the anime is done stabbing us to death, and this is just the last final twist before they let go. By the way, the time between Droopy killing Ascot and the credits? 13 minutes. They try and play the situation as Droopy ascending into godhood as him possibly bringing doom upon the earth, but he doesn't, so crisis averted, I guess. You know, January and February are the months in which I often review some of the most boring anime ever released. So when I make this statement, I do not make it lightly. This might be the most boring anime of all. At least Odin had kind of a plot, and there was some cheesy moments that you could laugh at between the boring moments. Iria also took a year and a half to tell itself, but at least the setting was interesting to look at, and the story didn't stall just to play fetch quest with the viewer. Even Harlock Saga had a few memorably dumb moments that stick out in my mind to laugh and ridicule at. The Dark Myth, on the other hand, is just a wholesale slog to get through. A tedious sit by anyone's definition. I wouldn't even recommend watching it ironically. Just continue avoiding it and pretend this episode never existed. Ugh. So, now that we got that intestinal blockage out of our system, why don't we talk about another equally terrible anime, but for way more interesting reasons. Till next time.
Long live your Lord High Regent Sage! Long live Benetopia!